The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
"17-year-old girl missing." Woodbrook police officers are searching for 17-year-old student Lizzie Romero of Methuen Street, Woodbrook. Lizzie was last seen at her home around 12 midday on April 1st. She was reported missing on the same date at 3:20 p.m. Lizzie is a Venezuelan, 5 feet 9 inches tall, medium build, light brown complexion with long brown and black hair. She was last seen wearing a light-colored top, a pair of short blue jeans, and a pair of white shoes. Anyone with information on the whereabouts of Lizzie Romero is asked to contact the Woodbrook Police Station at 622-3421, 800-TIPS, or contact the police at 555-999, 911, or share information via the TTPS app. Woman abducted and raped rescued from forest camp. A Longdenville woman who was robbed, abducted, and raped was rescued by police in Rio Claro. The 19-year-old victim was found with injuries in a forested camp at San Pedro. A St. James man who allegedly held the woman against her will at the camp was arrested and taken into police custody. Police received a report that the woman was abducted around 11 p.m. on Tuesday. An anti-crime exercise coordinated by Senior Superintendent Khan, ASP Janki, Inspector Calendar, and Ragbir, and supervised by Sergeant Mirage and combined police team of officers from the Rio Claro CID, Task Force warrant officers, and charge room led to the woman's rescue. Around 6:15 a.m., the police went to Sydney Trace Tabaquite Road, Rio Claro. They observed the suspect, a 20-year-old man of Long Circular Road, Debay, in the camp with the victim. Upon seeing the officers, he attempted to escape, but was apprehended with a pistol in his possession and an extended magazine loaded with 16 rounds of 9mm ammunition. The victim was observed to be suffering from minor bruises, and she told the police that the suspect raped her the night before. She was taken to the Rio Claro Health Center. Also responding were Inspector Calendar, Sergeant Daniel, and Corporal Dowlat of the Anti-Kidnapping Unit, Sergeant Howard and WPC Mohan of the Cunupia CID, and crime scene investigators Corporal Prasad, PCs Nanku and Prasad. Local dancehall artist shot dead in Santa Cruz. Another dancehall artist named Brad Bailey was shot dead in Santa Cruz on Tuesday, March 30th. Guardian Media was informed that a video circulating on social media of Bailey may have cost him his life. The artist openly condemned and threatened the ABG gang, which means anybody gets it. Hours after the video, Bailey was gunned down on Blackfoot Street, Santa Cruz. Police said that from all indications, the murder was gang-related. Sources told Guardian Media that the Rasta and Muslim gangs signed a peace treaty, but no treaty was signed with the ABG gang. Sources confirmed that there is currently a feud between the Rasta and ABG gangs. Bailey was well known on the Zesser party scene and was affiliated to local recording label Z-Tech Empire, operated by local dancehall artist Prince Swanee. Many of Bailey's fans were at the scene of his murder, while many took to social media to share their condolences. According to reports, Bailey was walking through a track between Bath and Blackfoot Streets near Jigger Hill Cantaro Village in Upper Santa Cruz when he was ambushed by a lone gunman and shot about the body. He died at the scene. Police are continuing inquiries. This is the second local dancehall artist to be murdered in recent times. In 2020, another local artist, Rebel 6, was also murdered. Mother of slain dancehall artist. Killers must learn to live with their pain. Despite the pain of having to deal with her son's murder, Trisha Bailey says his killers must now live with themselves and face the consequences of their actions for the rest of their lives. Brad Bailey, 18, was shot dead on Blackford Street in Cantaro Village, Santa Cruz, on Wednesday morning. Bailey was a dancehall artist going by the stage name Brad Pitt, who gained some popularity on social media with one music video in particular, receiving over 2 million views on YouTube. Speaking with Newsday at the Forensic Science Center St. James on Thursday, Bailey said, contrary to his onstage persona, her son lived a peaceful life. He was my son. He was a normal boy. He didn't have any criminal record with guns or anything like that. The police didn't know my son to be involved in any gang thing. He was focused on music and he was a lyrical monster. That's it. I feel hurt, but at the end of the day, whoever killed him have to worry. He is dead and gone, but they have to live with it every day of their lives. They can't close their eyes just so anymore without seeing Brad's face. Bailey urged young people to be mindful of the friends they keep, as friends kill friends. She said her son was looking forward to the lifting of travel restrictions to visit other countries. On their Instagram accounts, local dancehall artists Prince Swanee, Meds Boss and Plummy Boss extended their condolences by posting Bailey's picture. Pineal Gardner loses sex offences appeal. Pineal Gardner Kishore Luchman will have to serve out his 14-year jail term for committing sexual acts on a 10-year-old primary school student on 4 occasions dating back to 2007. Luchman of Pineal Rock Road lost his appeal on Thursday after the Court of Appeal dismissed all 3 grounds of appeal that he filed challenging his convictions for 2 counts of serious indecency and 2 counts of grievous sexual assault on March 24, 2017. His sentence and conviction were affirmed. He had been sentenced to 14 years hard labor on each count of grievous sexual assault and 5 years on each count of serious indecency. His sentences imposed by Justice David Harris after he was found guilty by a jury were to run concurrently. Luchman was represented by attorneys Daniel Khan, Eula Nathai Luchman, Harry Nareen Singh, and Davina Inal Singh. The state was represented by senior prosecutor Sabrina Dugdeen Jaglal. The prosecution's case was that in September 2007, Luchman committed the first act of serious indecency on the child. The child was warned by the accused not to say anything. On another occasion in that same month, Luchman made the child put on a pornography DVD for them to watch. The child left, and when she returned, the accused's pants was allegedly down to his knees, and he was playing with himself. She was again warned not to tell anyone. The third offense took place in a car in December 2007. Sometime in January 2008, while the child was sleeping, the accused lay down next to her and sexually violated her. The girl eventually told her mother, and Luchman was arrested at his home in May 2009 and charged by Sergeant Dridganath Sukraj. At his trial, Luchman did not testify or call witnesses, but his defense was one of fabrication and denial. In their decision, Justices of Appeal Alice York Suhan, Maria Wilson, and Malcolm Holdip disagreed with Khan's contention that because the child was 10, her evidence would be unreliable. When she testified, she was already an adult, and Khan said the trial judge was duty-bound to include a warning to the jury of the inherent dangers in relying on the evidence. He also pointed to the fact that the matter was reported to the police when she was 12. The judges also dismissed Khan's complaints that the judge failed to properly direct the jury on credibility and reliability and the issue of consent. On the latter, he contended the judge should not have spent such a considerable part of his directions on the issue, as it may have led the jurors to focus on Lutchman's defense of denial. In their decision, the appeal court judges said the appellant was charged with separate categories of offenses under the Sexual Offences Act, the ingredients of which were distinct. For the offense of grievous sexual assault, the issue of consent is an essential element, and no exception was created for minors. Whilst the trial judge spent a considerable portion of his summing up on the issue of consent as it related to grievous sexual assault as distinct from serious indecency, we do not believe that it would have distracted the jury from considering the appellant's true defenses of denial and fabrication. They said he was under an obligation to direct the jury on consent, adding also that his directions on the other issues Khan raised were clear and concise. Former hospital chief of staff sues health ministry. Former Chief of Staff at the Mount Hope Women's Hospital, Dr. Karen Sohan, has sued the Ministry of Health over its failure to respond to her request to disclose statistics on the repatriated nationals who tested positive for COVID-19. In an affidavit filed in her lawsuit late last week, Sohan, who was left stranded in the United States for 6 months before she was granted an exemption to return to TT in September last year, is claiming that the ministry failed in its duty under the Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) to respond to her request either positively or negatively. In the document obtained by Guardian Media, Sohan, who was instrumental in this country's response to the Zika virus in 2016, sought to explain that her interest in the statistics was based on her negative personal experience in being repatriated and enduring mandatory state quarantine last year. On arrival to Trinidad, I was assigned to a state quarantine facility which failed to adhere to public health guidelines for COVID-19 quarantine and included communal toilets, thereby endangering my health, Sohan said. Apart from the reckless endangerment of my health by the substandard state quarantine facility, I was also very concerned about the cost to taxpayers of state quarantine, especially during this time when the economy has been suffering and that the numbers of nationals can return are limited by the number of quarantine spaces, she added. Sohan also claimed that she was concerned about reports from similarly stranded citizens who were struggling financially to live abroad while awaiting a travel exemption. As a result of my public interest in the repatriation policy, many stranded nationals have reached out to me via telephone calls, WhatsApp messages, Facebook comments, and emails seeking advice and aid, Sohan claimed. As she noted that she sent several letters to government officials, including Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, National Security Minister Stuart Young, and Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh on the issue. Sohan referred to general statements from the World Health Organization, WHO, on the need for priority to be given to citizens requiring repatriation and statements by Rowley that the country's policies would be based on scientific best practice. She suggested that the government's current limited border travel policy would only be sensible if the statistics she is seeking shows that returning nationals accounted for a large number of COVID-19 positive cases. However, if returning nationals were in the minority, then home quarantine where nationals could isolate in accordance with WHO recommendations should be explored, especially as some state facilities were not adhering to COVID-19 quarantine guidelines, she said. Sohan noted that she is especially interested in the statistics during large-scale repatriations between August and October last year, when there was no reporting by the ministry on the numbers of returning nationals who tested positive. She questioned whether it was due to a different reporting format or whether it was due to no returning nationals testing positive during the period. In the event that it was the latter, this would contradict the statements of the two senior health officials and could give the perception that the figures were being manipulated to suit the existing policy and induce fear in the resident population that returning nationals posed a considerable threat to the health of the resident population, Sohan said. Attempting to avoid speculating on the statistics, Sohan made the application under the FOIA in November last year. However, she was forced to file the lawsuit after she never received a response. Through the lawsuit, Sohan is seeking declarations that the ministry's continuing failure to respond to the request is illegal and that she is entitled to the requested information. Sohan is being represented by Skeeter John and Ria Sukhai.